Hello again, students. It's Mr. Owen, and today we're going to be doing a tour of one of the things that most people think of when they think of ancient Egypt, and that is the pyramids. So let's get started.
Welcome to Secrets of the Great Pyramid. Built around 2550 BCE, the Great Pyramid of Giza is considered one of the most iconic structures of Egypt. It is the biggest of the pyramids and the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing. The numbers associated to the Great Pyramid of Giza are impressive. A workforce of over 20,000 people, 6 million tons of stone, and 20 years of construction. It was a massive undertaking for a pharaoh's tomb.
So looking here, you see what's left of the Great Pyramid today. Very much different than the smooth size that you see here in the game, and that's because those limestone blocks that you see there, the smooth white, would over thousands of years get worn away due to erosion and weathering. Weathering is something you're going to learn about in science, but basically the wind constantly blowing sand across it would wear away that stone and remove the smoothness of it that it had in antiquity. I'm going to summon my companion here to make this travel a little faster. This is one of the perks of the game, is having a companion you can ride.
The construction of the Great Pyramid was also a display of power and opulence on the part of Khufu. It is part of the pharaoh's vast funerary complex, which also includes 2 temples, 3 satellite pyramids, a causeway, and a builder's necropolis. We can guess that the intent behind the construction of these monuments was Khufu's way of declaring himself one of the most powerful pharaohs to rule a unified Egypt.
And I would say he succeeded in that, something that has withstood the test of time and definitely shows the power that Khufu had at that period of history.
New insights into engineering and ancient Egyptian culture are still being revealed over 4,500 years later. For example, a recently unearthed papyrus offers a glimpse into the life of a tradesman at the time of the pyramid's construction. Also, a logbook belonging to a team leader during the building gives details on the craftsmen, their work schedules, and the raw materials required.
So 4,500 years later, still uncovering information about this. Looks like I just missed the little marker there. I'll circle back.
It is interesting to note that by Cleopatra's time, the pyramid's celestial purpose, its construction, and the function of its mysterious inner chambers was already unclear. Today, it is only through dedicated research that we have begun to grasp some of the Great Pyramid's mysteries.
So Egypt was so ancient that even by its later kingdoms, it was losing track of how the pyramids were made and what their purpose was. And so their own history was getting lost within their own culture because of just how ancient they were and how long they lasted.
The Egyptians had polished their design for centuries by the time work on the Great Pyramid began. Intended as a tomb for Khufu, the Great Pyramid's structural design has been considered to be nearly perfect by engineers and historians ever since.
It is quite impressive that the technology of the time that they had, they were able to create something so monumental.
Precisely oriented north-south to the 4 cardinal points of a compass, the length of each side of the Great Pyramid at its base was 230 meters, and its original height was 147 meters. The pyramid is a mere 0.05% error away from being a perfect square.
So it's about 2.5 football fields wide and a football field and a half tall. And the fact that it's almost a perfect square considering technology 4,500 years ago compared to today is absolutely astounding. They were able to figure out the math and measurements and geometry of all that in ancient times with what limited technology they had.
In order to achieve the shape of a true pyramid, the design required many considerations in the planning phases as well as precision during execution. It was especially critical that they control the angle of inclination on all sides at every stage of construction.
You can see how impressively smooth it is. Yes, it is a little bit marred, but considering it's over 4,000 years old, still quite a feat.
Whoa.
Materials for the Great Pyramid consisted of quarried limestone blocks, weighing between 2 to 15 tons each. The methods of moving these blocks into place is still debated by architects and Egyptologists. The precision of its design in an age with only soft metal tools, as well as the enormous scale of its construction, make the Great Pyramid one of the most impressive feats of human engineering.
So remember, they didn't have a lot of great tools at the time. We talked about bronze and then later on iron, but they're still fairly soft metal tools. So to be able to cut and quarry out these pieces of limestone and then place them into an order like this that's going to last for thousands of years is still awesomely done, and still a topic of debate of how exactly did they do this. And historians and Egyptologists still have different theories and ideas about exactly how that was done.
It's estimated that it took between 600,000 and 2 million blocks of stone to build the Great Pyramid. Experts calculate it would have required men to move 12 blocks every hour around the clock for 20 years to place the 2.3 million stones the monument is made of.
So even in today's world, building something like this would be a huge undertaking. And we have all the advantages of technology and machinery and modern science. So for them to do that back then, pretty impressive. And taking 20 years to haul all these stones and cut them and move them into place is pretty substantial. You can see over here, passing by me, and here in a second, looks like a caravan of perhaps traders or diplomats riding past. I'm about to hop off here and get up the pyramid. Now, in our world today, it is very much illegal to climb up the sides of the pyramid because they are trying to preserve it, and humans touching it, stepping on it would not be great for preservation. But since we're in the game, we can kind of get away with whatever we want.
While the interior chambers were built with red granite from Aswan, most of the pyramid was made from local limestone, weighing between 2 to 15 tons per block. There is debate on how the pyramid stones were moved into place. Recent research is exploring the idea that it was built around a large interior ramp.
But then in perspective, most cars weigh between like 1 to 2 tons. So a block that weighs up to 15 tons, having to move that into place, that is pretty darn heavy, especially for not having trucks or mechanical cranes. They had their own cranes that they invented, but there was no electricity to them.
The recently discovered logbook confirms that the high-quality limestone of the outer casing was brought by boat across the Nile from a quarry in Tura. Once complete, the smooth white polished stone of the Great Pyramid would have reflected the sunlight like a beacon, earning it the name the Horizon of Khufu.
Once again, the Nile being utilized to move and transport not only goods and resources, but also giant stone blocks from the quarries to the edges of where they would make the pyramids. Some of the stuff we saw in the DBQ and pictured here again of how they transported these huge limestone blocks. And you can kind of see with that smooth polished limestone it is reflecting the light of the sun, and this would be pretty much a beacon that at all times you look and see this glowing pyramid. You're reminded of the power of the gods and the pharaohs, their representatives here on Earth.
Over the centuries, thieves and travelers attempted to access the Great Pyramid numerous times. Ancient writings describe details of its interior, proof that some made their way within, though who gained entrance first and when is unknown.
Just as we have today, Egyptians had people that would want to steal things, and knowing that the pharaoh was burying tons of gold and ivory and fine jewelry with them in their tombs, people would want to come in and steal from it.
The main entrance of the Great Pyramid is located 17 meters above ground level. It faces north, likely in order to align with the North Star. Though the entrance passageway had been discovered in antiquity, any further access into the Great Pyramid was stopped by massive vertical slabs of rock. As such, present-day visitors to the pyramid must use the robber's entrance.
Named so because it was made by grave robbers. And so something that's been there for thousands of years, people over the centuries will want to hop in and see what kind of treasures there are within that they can steal and take home with them.
The robber's entrance is reported to have been opened in the 9th century by Caliph al-Mamun. In search of treasure, the Caliph had his men dig their way inside the Great Pyramid. The most likely scenario is that they enlarged a corridor which had been created by tomb robbers during antiquity. As such, this is how the team can justify access to this wonder.
So this game was made by consulting Egyptologists and historians, and they pulled directly from actual history. So the way that they know that what is within the Great Pyramid is having these experts that have been inside of it that can give them advice and layouts of what lies within, as we're about to see.
Attempts to gain entry to the Great Pyramid and uncover its potential secrets continued throughout the centuries. In the 19th century, the belief that another entry existed at the south side resulted in a hole being blasted into the pyramid's side, with no results for the damage that was done. While the search is still ongoing today to uncover more hidden rooms and passageways, conservation is the primary concern of all such efforts.
This marker here is another tour that takes us inside the pyramid. We'll get to that in another video. First, I wanted to go back outside before we wrap up and give you a little aerial perspective once again. We're going to do something that, again, in our world today, very illegal and gets you pretty hefty jail sentence in Egypt. However, in the game, we can kind of do whatever we please. And so it's going to be loading here for a second, but now I'm on top of the Great Pyramid as the landscape loads around me, and we'll give you a quick 360 view of it here. Seeing the Nile and all the farm greenery along it, the Great Pyramids, the desert surrounding Egypt, Alexandria there next to the Mediterranean, and back centered. So this, should you be one of the individuals in ancient times that would somehow scale up here with those slick sides, which would be pretty dang difficult, as when it was initially built, this is what you would see surrounding. And let's reinforce the idea that the Nile is providing the only path of greenery through this rocky desert landscape. So as we wrap up today, I'm going to go ahead and hop off and start sliding down, do a little bit of surfing down the side of the pyramid, and we will catch you all next time. Take care, guys.